right, here we go. All right, welcome everyone. We want to thank you guys for joining us. We are going to get right to our goal setting and reflection panel. And what we are going to do is we're going to kind of go around the room. And since we're kind of informal right now, and there's just 5 of us, if we want to just share our names, what we do, we kind of did that already. But if you want to share a goal that you've set, that you've reached sometime in your life that you're willing to share with us. So something that you've done as a goal and you set it and you reached it, if you'd be willing to share. And if you want to share the other side of it too, the failure of it, you can also share that. So we'll kind of leave it open for you to decide. So Kelsey, I'm going to pick on you first because I know you.
Fantastic.
Kelsey, you want to start us?
Sure, totally. So Kelsey Genero, this is my 10th year at Cheney Middle School in West Fargo. This is my 5th year teaching 8th grade earth science, however. And a goal that I've reached, I don't know. That's so hard. My biggest thing, I guess, was to complete my master's program, to actually do that. And I was very fortunate to be able to do it while I worked full time. And yeah, so there.
I can go next.
Oh, go ahead, Tyler.
Tyler Ukestead. I currently at Northern Cass. This is my 4th year there, teaching preschool through 3 Phi Ed, 5th year teaching overall. And then a goal that I've set and I've reached. I wanted to, after graduating college, I wanted to jump into my master's kind of as soon as I can. And I finally started doing that this past spring. Kind of jumped in and started doing that. So
I guess I'll go next. Carmen Lawyer. I currently teach 6th grade science at Liberty Middle School in West Fargo. And I guess a goal for me would be probably graduating college. Like, it was always like to become a teacher, literally was a goal of mine. So literally living the goal, like the dream now, met it and living it. So.
Amber, do you want to go?
Sure. Amber Rudolph, principal at Cheney Middle School. Just thinking about a, personal or professional goal. When I was in the classroom, I had a personal goal of becoming national board certified, and I did that. And it was more rigorous, I would say, than the master's degree, because of the time crunch, I felt like, and it was all about reflection and just having a lot of, you really have to reflect on your change and be honest with yourself and your teaching practices. And so that was something that I was able to meet.
Okay, I'll go next. I'm Sherry Demain. I'm instructional coach. And this was methodical, so I can use it. And some of you are gonna laugh. I've had a goal of getting a dog for 10 years, and I had to like spend 10 years getting my other half to actually like be like okay with this. And it was very methodical and somewhat undermining at times. And I finally got it. So yes, so that's the goal I'm using today. I failed for 9 years though, just to let you know.
Hello. So I'm Amy. I'm an assistant principal at Horace High School. And I've had this goal of having 3 kids and them all moving out so that I could be an empty nester. I have failed at that goal. They keep coming back and then they go again and then they come back. So I am still striving to get all of my children out of the house.
That's awesome. I love that. All right. We are going to begin with the 3 of you on just kind of going through some questions, and feel free to answer, or if it doesn't pertain to you, you all have the ability to share your screen so you can pop up examples and do whatever you want to do. We kind of already answered the first question, but if each of you wants to go through about how did you begin your journey with goal setting in your classroom and reflection with your learners, if one of you wants to begin and kind of talk about what that looks like.
I can start. So my first 5 years was in special education, and the part of that that I absolutely loved was the small groups that I would constantly be working with. So I got to know them really, really well. And as soon as I entered into content, I felt like I was missing something. And then on top of it, COVID hit and all this other fun jazz. To where last year I made it a point where it had to be built into my classroom. I had to find time. We have 20 minutes of reading twice a week in our science and social studies classes. And that's the time that I use to call kiddos up. And we started with that, and now moving more towards PCBL, I can conference with more and more often, not just during that time. So that's kind of how I got started.
I can go next. So this is my 6th year of teaching, and this is my 2nd year in North Dakota. I'm from South Carolina, so if I say some words funny, that's why. But I got put on an awesome team at Liberty, and we're really believers in PCBL. And so last year was kind of like getting my feet wet, learning what standards I'm teaching to begin with. Getting like familiar with my GVC. And so now that I have that, I knew that goal setting and reflection was kind of like a big piece of PCBL. And so I had kind of this summer to brainstorm some stuff. And so I kind of set up a template, and we do weekly goal setting in my room and all of that. So I have a template and I can share it, but it's I'm kind of just getting started with this year. Like, we're in quarter 2, so.
Fabulous. If you wouldn't mind sharing that in the chat, and then we will add that as resources, and anything you guys have, if you want to share it in the chat or an email, we will make sure that goes along with this video so people can use those as resources as well.
Perfect,
go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, I'll kind of echo what Carmen said. I've big ideas kind of just starting off now, but being in PE kind of always natural. Been kind of goal setting just in the moment with different activities depending on what we're doing. For example, there might be an activity where we're working on our catching skills and they're capturing hula hoops by standing in there and catching it and bringing it back to their squad. We might play a round or two, and then after we play that round, I'll have them come up with a goal as a squad, like what do they want to get as a number on the next round. It's just a natural way to talk about goal setting that way. But I'll share my screen in a little bit. But last year our school goal was visual tracking, and that's where I saw like goal setting could be really powerful. Basically, it started with our jump rope units when I visual tracked, but I could see the motivation from my kids increase by using that. And then this year we started using learner profiles, and we're tracking our portrait of a learner attributes with those learner profiles. Like Carmen said, I'm just starting out with that. So I'll share that in a little bit.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, next question. And some of you already kind of talked about this, but what are benefits of goal setting and reflection for your learners that you are seeing as you are implementing in your journey?
So for my kiddos, when we sit and we meet and kind of talk about the goals that we set for our units, we can actually have more of that in-depth conversation. And then they have been able to start to point out, gee, I just need to know what this is. And then I can move up to the next one, which has been really great, especially like we're talking about rocks and minerals right now in class. And the amount of things that you wouldn't think an eighth grader would know about rocks is ridiculous. To where they can be like, okay, so it acts like plastic. Are we talking like Tupperware plastic, or are we talking about like toys? I'm like, well, think of even just like cellophane plastic, like all that. So they've started to make those connections for the next. So like setting those goals, they know where they want to get to. And we can actually have more intelligible conversations with one another.
I can just kind of go off of that in regards to our Read 180 intervention. The students typically would like to exit that program in order to have mainstream encore classes with their peers. And so they all goal set each quarter because they know the exit criteria. And then they have, some of them have a pretty good idea of what they need to do in order to meet that criteria and exit at the quarter break, and are very motivated by that. A simple schedule change. Others are motivated by it too, and it's just other variables that they can't control as much, such as like learning disabilities or, bad tests and whatnot in any given day. But for the most part, they are familiar with the criteria in order to exit the program.
I was trying to find the unmute button. So it was a mess. I have like so many tabs open because I made a shareable one. But for me, the benefits that I've seen, so I'm actually focusing more on like engagement goals with my kiddos. So like, how engaged are you in class? So they set a goal, and at the beginning of the year, we went through like, what does a disrupting classroom look like? So if I walked in and every student in this classroom was being disruptive, what would it look like? And of course, they had a really easy time with that. But then like, as we got towards like investing and driving, they struggled a little bit more with that. But what I've really liked with goal setting is those high flyers. Like, they would be content sitting and participating. Like, they can follow like champs expectations, right? So that's not really going to be pushing them, but they're like, I'm like, no, like, you can participate. We're moving past this. Like, you're investing this week. And so like, I really get to conference with them, and I get to like, I mean, it's changed so much since I've started, but I really get to push those high flyers, and the ones that were struggling, like, were maybe more disruptive, like, okay, let's baby step our way. Like, it's going to be unrealistic for you to go straight to driving. And then when I like correct behaviors and stuff, I also use that language. So that also helps.
For me, I'll just share my screen so I can just see what I'm talking about here. This is just from a master's assignment that I did this year, so everything's just on one slide. It works out nice. Can you guys see that? Awesome. So for seeing how it like motivated my kids, come on. It says loading. There we go. Okay.
First example of being personalized in my learning center.
No, don't do that.
Another example of personalized learning.
We don't want to listen
to
to
my
that.
learning center.
All right. Sorry. I'll just leave it like this. You guys see this? Is this good? All right. So last year, our school goals visual tracking, like I talked about, and I struggled figuring out how to do that with 250 plus kids, K through 3. So when we did our jump rope unit in February, I saw this just online. Somebody did the 1 minute, 2 minute kangaroo club thing, and I just kind of made it my own. But basically, if the learner can jump rope for a minute straight with only one mess up, or 2 minutes straight with one mess up, then they get to write their name on the poster. And then for the kangaroo club, that was for my 3-4 kids, and the kangaroo club was for my K through 2 kids. And there's the 5, 10, 15, 20. if they could do 5, 10, 15, 20 jumps in a row without messing up, they got to write their name up on the wall. And before I had that on the wall, like there was some groans from some of my boys and girls. They didn't really want to do jump ropes and stuff like that. But what I found to be really powerful is after I introduced this, I had parents like reach out to me telling me that their kid is like literally going down in their basement and jumping rope so they could get their name up on the poster. So that's when I really thought like, hey, this visual tracking thing like could be really powerful for me. But from then until the end of the year, like I still didn't know what to do for all my other skills that I teach. I struggled with that. That 250 kids and finding a system that works for me, that's just not a lot more work for me, you know. So then this year, our school goal is actually learner profiles, and then like literally our first assignment this fall for my master's was to create learner profiles. So again, just didn't know what wanted to do with that many kids, and then I sat down with my partner who's doing it with me, and then talked with our level 3 team. We came up with this. You can see Carly Anderson's learner profile, and then came up with the idea of using the learner profile as a tracker itself. So as you can see, they got to pick their goal. This is for October. They picked their goal for each of our approachable learner attributes. I just had them pick their goal, and then a week I sat down and conferenced with each like different attribute with those kids, and just kind of talked about like what that means to be accountable, how do you communicate, adaptable, all that kind of stuff. And then this past week I conferenced with them again. If they reach their goal, they get a sticker. There will be a different color sticker for each attribute, and they get to put their sticker like on whatever. Carly chose a volleyball, some kids chose a football helmet, so forth. Then I'm also going to use this as for my physical skills too. So I'm going to find different stickers for overhand throw, underhand throw, kicking, all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like everything that I do goal setting wise.
Has impacted you as an educator. So really wondering, how has it made you maybe think differently, use different instructional practices than you have before, or anything in general?
Did you guys hear that question? Because we just got a message say that's what I was assuming. We froze for a bit and we were unstable. So let's try this again.
Okay, so I'm wondering, how has learner goal setting and reflection practices impacted you as an educator? So, focusing on that educator role, how has that changed your practices by using goal setting and reflection with your learners?
It has made me really like go back and tease through our standards and our targets and truly identify what is 100% necessary versus like what is super fun to just teach because that's what I enjoy, sort of a thing. So going back, and I think to our astronomy unit earlier this year, and like working with the kiddos, I saw, okay, we're still missing gravity and that concept. And best quote so far this year, well, if Newton couldn't figure it out, how am I supposed to do it, G? I'm like, good question. But then it's like, okay, now I need to go back and I need to think how can I adjust this to meet 8th grade mindsets and all of this. And yeah, so with that goal setting and figuring it out and talking with them one-on-one, it's like, okay, now I know specifically what am I missing as a teacher to help them.
Yeah, I again kind of echo what Kelsey said. Like, just I've really seen like where I, as an educator, like can meet them better. So like for my kids, like I'm doing like engagement goals, and then we use our profile of a graduate to do like social emotional goals, and then we reflect on it at the end of my class. And if I can share my screen, if see how this goes. This could be a very scary thing because the screen is always crazy. But so I have like my weekly goal setting. So they all have science folders and they have their standard. They would write that out when Mondays we call like our folder days. We're like setting it up for the week. And then they have their learning target and their SEL goal, but like this, like thinking about like, it challenges me, like how can they demonstrate like creativity in science this week? How could they demonstrate like resilience for me this week? And they've gotten like real, like in conferencing with me, especially those high flyers that I'm like, yeah, no, you're not doing responsibility as your goal because that's not a goal for you. It's really pushed them to like think outside of the box, and because it's pushing them to think outside of the box, I have to think outside of the box to like facilitate them, if that makes sense. So this is kind of like my template that I have that they get, and then they reflect at the end of class. We call it reflect time. So
yeah, for me, just kind of like I mentioned, just with the visual tracking, just seeing how powerful it was. But then also I want to start using this to get my kids to realize that obviously like we have fun in PE and we play a lot of games that are a lot of fun for these little kids, but just get them to understand that they're building skills too and they're working on skills. It's just like learning addition or learning how to write. They're learning physical skills in my class.
Thank you. So throughout this process, what have you learned? What have been your biggest wins, your biggest revisions, or wonders that you still have? You just have to pick one.
I'd say the biggest thing is that I'm always bettering myself. I'm always bettering it, like the process for my learners. I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh my goodness, visual, like using a profile tracker or whatever, because I'm sitting in here with like 100 kids at like 3 different spaces and 2 different units and all this or whatever. Like, how can I do this? And then like the disposition of a graduate, like, okay, how am I going to now build that in? So it's like having these conversations and talking even with my own cohorts here in my building, it's like I'm constantly changing it and adapting to the new things that other people have great ideas with and like making it work for me. So I'm just constantly in the state of like disarray because I'm trying to like change it as I go, change it on the fly.
yeah, like I said, this sheet that I have, I literally brought one home because I wanted to be able to reference it. Has literally changed so much since I've started. Like originally the SEL goal wasn't even on there. And then I was like, why am I not like challenging these kids in a different, like with the profile of a graduate? Where is that? One thing that I am revising in quarter 2 is quarter 1, the kids would turn these into me on Friday, and then I would take them home and I would write on them and we would conference and like I would reflect on it and like write like feedback on there. But that made my weekends like very hard. And so we're actually going to start keeping these in our folders. And when I conference with them, I will look at it in the moment, like when I'm conferencing with them, and give them feedback on the week prior. So like, what if our goal was like participating? Well, if you wrote on here that you didn't do so hot that day, like why? Like what was the issue going on here, kind of thing, that I was giving them like feedback wise, but not necessarily having to spend my weekend writing on goal sheets.
Yeah, for me, definitely first time going around and conferencing with these kids did not go well. Like definitely need to either conference with them more before we talked about if they reached their goal or not. Because I mean, with the level 3 kids, there were some of them that didn't even know what I was talking about, or like didn't remember their goal or anything like that. So I just got to come up with a better system on how to get them to understand that they need to be working towards this throughout the month and making sure that they understand what that actually is. I think the one conference that I had explaining it was early October, and then I didn't meet with them again until beginning of November. So there's a lot of time in between for them to not even think about it.
And I think, like, at least for me, I'm in a constant state of wonder. Like, how can we improve this? I tell the kids, like, I'm a scientist at heart. So I'm always going to be like making a hypothesis, testing it. This did not go the way I thought it did. So let's revise it and like experiment again. It's not really an experiment, but I kind of run with it with the science theme, teaching science. So I'm always like constantly like, how can I do this better? Hence why I'm not taking them home anymore.
All right, last question of the day. So, in about 6 words or less, what words of wisdom do you have for educators who are wanting to begin the work about goal setting and reflection practices with their learners?
There's really no wrong way to do it at this point. As long as you start, and then you figure out what does or doesn't work.
Yeah, I would say just start somewhere. The only time you truly fail at something is when you don't try. And so just starting somewhere. And honestly, I ask the kids for feedback. Like, is this working? Is this not working? They'll be honest with you. Like, that would be my wisdom there.
Go for it. Why not?
Amber didn't go yet.
Yeah, I would just say be objective and data driven.
Lori, do you have some words of wisdom?
I would honestly say if you're asking kids to set goals and reflect, I think you can't do one without the other. So I think just being really mindful if you're goal setting, but you're never reflecting on it, that's not very successful. And if you're reflecting, but not really setting some great goals, they don't always have to be academic goals, but goals of any kind, you really need both of those are interdependent and they drive one another. So I think just being really intentional. Carmen, I love what you were saying about your time. It doesn't always need to be that feedback is coming from you. They can, I think, learning to get feedback from one another and also then learning to give themselves feedback. And so some of those progressions of, really getting deep into the reflection. But I can't argue with just start somewhere. And it can't go wrong. So love that.
Amazing. Thank you all. You did. Oh, I'm so excited. There's so many things. Like, Tyler, I want to go back to PE now. Seriously, just so I can write my name on the wall. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for your words of wisdom. We will, if you want, I will send you a copy of the link of the video. Also, if you haven't joined Facebook yet, and for all who are watching, please join our Facebook. You will see all the information on there, and the video will be up shortly. And we will also make sure, if the resources you didn't get in the chat, if you want to send them to me through email, and then we'll make sure those resources get uploaded as well, because those are some amazing pieces that you guys have that will really help people start off. If you think about how you got started, oftentimes it was someone else who maybe just gave you a starting point, and they can maybe grab different ideas and find their starting point. It would be super amazing. So thank you. All right, you guys all have a great evening, and we're gonna talk to Lori about